Well, I want to welcome you to Ministry Discussions Part 4. Can you believe it? Yes, it's Part 4. And it's not by happenstance that you've come to this broadcast at this hour during this time to hear such a power-packed discussion. Today, we welcome Bishop Joseph Warren Walker III. Bishop Walker is a philanthropist, nationally known speaker, a chairman, presiding bishop of the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship, and the pastor of Mount Zion Baptist Church, Nashville. He is also married to the incredibly brilliant Dr. Stephanie Walker, and you can connect with him further by following him at Joseph Walker 3. And today, I don't want you to be selfish. Tell somebody it's not about being selfish, but it's about being selfless. There are so many people that need to hear the discussion that's getting ready to take place. So I want you, if you're watching on Facebook, to go ahead and hit that like button, hit the share button, and even host a watch party. If you're watching on YouTube, you can share that as well. And then follow me at Diamond J Gantt on Instagram and on YouTube, because I don't want you to just see what God is doing in my life, but I want to see what God is doing in your life. And so throughout the broadcast, if there's something that touches you, you can share with us and tag us during this broadcast. But I know that God is getting ready to breathe on this discussion. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned and watch what God does. Well, hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. I am incredibly excited about what is taking place. I know you all had the intro video and you saw, and I asked you to like and share, but I'm going to emphasize that one more time. I want you to share this broadcast, host a watch party, because this is going to be good. I know that I'm calm right now, but I have somebody here who I am so excited to welcome to this platform and incredibly honored that he is here, Bishop Joseph Warren Walker III. Thank you, Bishop, for being here.
Nah, but I'm so happy to be with you, I tell you.
Bishop, there was this time, I got to tell this story really quickly as we open. There was a time where you came to Princeton while the bishops were being trained, and Dr. Steph, you called her and she said that you were just like a proud papa down there at Princeton. And so I'm a proud daughter having you on this platform. So now it's reciprocated.
There it is. There it is.
Yes. So, Bishop, I definitely want to get into this discussion. I am incredibly honored for the mentor that you have been in my life and all that you've done and all that you have imparted into me. And so I thought it'd be appropriate to bring you on here to kind of just share with some of the younger preachers that follow me and share with some of the older preachers that follow me just the heart that you have for ministry, theological education, leadership, innovation, and all of that. So we're going to jump right in, Bishop, and I'll give you a chance to share as you feel led. We always want to remain relevant to what is happening. And today we witness literally mind-blowing history as the first African-American woman who is on the ticket for a majority party to be led and to be chosen by a presidential candidate. How do you feel about that? Can you just tell us where you are with that?
You know, when you think about Sojourner Truth, Fannie Mae Hamer, you think about the extraordinary women in history who have paved the way for a moment like today. It gives me chills to think about my daughter. I'm a dad, of a girl, and that she will grow up knowing that nothing is impossible for her. It was a very important decision, a needed decision. And I think that it is going to move this country in the right direction in terms of a lot of the disparities and a lot of the issues that have divided us. I think this is really going to be a good thing for for race relations, for our community, for our nation, more importantly, to heal and to see that anything is possible.
And that's what I'm believing, even as a young woman, to see that. I just begin to get teary eyed because now we know, we read it in history books and we saw all of the women that have paved the way, but now we're seeing it literally firsthand that these things can happen. And so I want to segue now. Of course, I wanted to ask you that, but I want to jump right into ministry because I want to be respectful of your time and those who are watching, and I want to make the most of it. And so I remember literally being in the lobby of Antioch, of your Antioch campus, when I first interned for you. And I was reading in the history book of Mount Zion, and I came across your page, and I realized that we were on similar paths as it pertains to studying, going to law and things of that nature, and then kind of pivoting and going into theological education. And I want to ask you, what was that defining moment like, knowing that you had to go into studying your theological education? What was that like for you?
Well, it was certainly a difficult decision for me because I was so convinced that law was what I was called to do. I felt that this was my lot in life, and when the Lord called me to minister, I knew instinctively that a call to ministry is a call to preparation. So I immediately knew that I was going to be sent to Vanderbilt Divinity School. My pastor, who made the call even after registration, and got a spot for me in divinity school. But, I think the joy of it for me was preparing for what I became very passionate about. Once I got out of my feelings and realized that God had bigger plans for my life than law, I then developed a unique passion for ministry, and the preparation process was just incredible for me. And I think that's why I'm such an advocate for theological education.
Understood. And so oftentimes there's this battle we find between people who are saying school is necessary, and then we're seeing people who are saying school is not necessary. What do you say to the person that says preparation isn't necessary?
Well, I say, it's absurd. I think that we have to be honest, and the church is the only place where we allow ourselves to be led by folks who basically have no training whatsoever. You require a particular training from your manicurist. You even require a particular training from your beautician. You require training from your physician and from those who deal with other areas of your life. When it comes to your soul, we often want to spiritualize it to the degree that we dismiss the training process. I believe that anyone who is truly called spends that time in preparation. And I think that really gives great credibility, I think, to the call. And we are handling the souls of God's people. And there are certain things we learn in seminary. There are certain things we learn about sacred texts that you just don't get just because you're anointed. You got to be able to dissect the scripture in a way and understand the historicity of the text. And for instance, there are a lot of people who come up with certain orthodoxies, if you will, rooted in erroneous theological teachings. And as a result of those orthodoxies being skewed, their orthopraxy comes out the same way. They are practicing stuff that doesn't have a proper theological foundation. And so for those of us who've been trained, it's like somewhat comical, but it's also very painful to watch, right? Because you are holding people hostage to a theological position that has no biblical relevancy whatsoever, all because it was just something your pastor told you and their pastor told them. And then when you finally come to the revelation of the word of God and what it meant at the foundational level, it becomes an aha moment. You're like, wow, I didn't know that. We're like, yeah, that's why we went to school. So we would not abuse God's word, and we would not put God's people in bondage.
Wow. So we would not abuse God's word. I love that. Now, I want to say this to you. If you have not shared this post, I want you to go ahead and do that for me. Share this, because we're getting ready to dive deeper. I'm getting ready to pick Bishop's brain on some of the things. Now, because we are in a day where people are not really heading to school, and that's not all that this conversation will be comprised of. But I want to know, as someone who started pastoring so young, you've gone through your theological education and you've seen people kind of come and go in ministry. What are your joys and disappointments of this generation? You and I kind of converse about it, but I want to start there. And then I want to follow up with, what has changed since you are a young preacher? What don't you see anymore? And you can be completely honest as you would like to be.
Well, no, just kidding. You know, Diamond. Let me just speak first of all. I think to my disappointment to end on a higher note of my, I think the disappointment is I think that there's not, and I don't mean this generally because and I'll talk about some of the extraordinary people that I've met in this generation who do some amazing things. But I think there is not a lot of focus. I think that a lot of times they desire the platform, they desire the position, but don't necessarily understand the struggle associated with it. And once they hit the struggle, they often disengage, or they lack the ability to persevere, and they move on to something else. And so consequently, it's the reason why you have a generation of folks, who are lay people they're not even 30, but they've had 8 pastors, right?
Yeah.
You're 30 years old, you had 8 pastors, your grandmother had 1 or 2 her whole life. Then you have young ministers who come along, they'll see a guy like me, they'll see my contemporaries, and they're like, man, I just want to, blow up like that. So you think just because you put your stage a certain kind of way and you put certain mics and things in position that's going to in some way, make your ministry, where our ministry is, without understanding success does not come by the elevator, it comes by the stairs.
Wow.
And so the inability to be properly mentored by the appropriate people that can really help you. I think that's one of the things that is disappointing in this generation, because we often are seeking that which is mystical. We run after that which is, in that mystical realm. We don't run after that which is foundational, instructional, that which is administrative. And so those of us who built our ministries from a very, infrastructural position are the ones who are really surviving now, right? That's why our ministries are continuing to thrive, because we took care of our churches. We were not trying to be popular on the road. We weren't looking for the next platform or person to preach for. We spent time pastoring and pouring into people. So I see that as a weakness of this generation, that, that it's more brand oriented versus lifting up the name of Jesus Christ and being committed to the people of God. Now, what I do see as a wonderful, positive thing in this generation is I see hope. I see a remnant who truly want to be mentored. I think about you. I think about, Alonda, Tucker, people like that. A cohort of young people I mentor, Vanderbilt Divinity students who just are amazing, who spend that time focused, who are like taking every word that I say like a sponge. They're, these are folks that are hungry for. They're not so in a hurry for the title or the position. They want the goods. They show me the how. So that is encouraging to me to see those who don't mind grinding, as a lot of people don't know, but you understood. But the first time you were mentored by me, that internship, you realized something about me. Like when I call you, sometimes it could be 11 o'clock at night, but you always had your laptop ready. You always had a pen and paper, because you knew that's how ministry works. You got to be ready at all times. You can't just be in a situation where you're just doing, well, I'm busy, I'm too tired. It's serious out here. And so that's a hope. That's a real hope. For when I was called, we were given, a Bible and a star book for ministers and a hymnal. Now folks get an armor bearer,
Right.
Who's going armor bearer, and the issue is, I think one of the things that concerns me, I think, is the lack of real biblical literacy among those from this generation who really don't read the Bible to read the Bible. We just read it to preach. And you got to read the Bible. You got to read it for your own life. And you have to understand that this is what's going to help you become a greater preacher, a greater pastor, a greater evangelist, or whatever you're called to do. And I think that's how we came along. We took it very seriously. My Bible was filled with highlighter, man, and pages torn. And I still do it today. My discipline is the biggest thing that we had then. We were disciplined, man. It was like, and that's that regiment you see in me now. That's that consistency, and that's where it comes from. And one of the things, like for me, if you're on time, you're late, right? I don't deal well with folks who show up at 10 o'clock meeting. That doesn't make sense to me. I can't even wrap my mind around that, because you have to show up. It takes you 10 minutes to get ready for what I've already talked to 10 minutes about. So, so it's just that kind of discipline, that kind of urgency about ministry is what I think may be lacking.
I echo that because a lot of times in my cohort of preachers, those who have come alongside me, they kind of look at some of the things that I do and they wonder, why do you do that? Why are you not as eager for the road, even though you have the road? And I think it comes from that consistency piece of knowing what I'm really called to do, that it's more than the lights, camera, action. It's more than all of that. And so here it is. I ask you this question because we're going to dive into some really deeper subjects in a second. But as young preachers, the road is just the thing right now. Or it was the thing. It was the thing. And I didn't realize how popular it was until I was kind of thrusted into a life that I didn't even knew existed. And so right now during quarantine, naturally the road has just been wiped out. We don't have a calendar, and no one has a calendar unless it's a virtual calendar at this point. And so I asked the question, what do you say to the young preacher with dreams of what you would say ecclesiastical fame? Those who see your platform and I just want to be like Bishop Walker, or I just want to be like Jamal Bryant, or all of those things.
It's over. It's over. I say to you, you're chasing waterfalls. I say to you, that you're on the wrong side of history. The fact is that ecclesiastical celebrity is over.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, once we come through this pandemic and we reimagine what the church will be, it is important to understand that ministry, church, evangelism, all of the things that we've been doing have to be revisited. And nobody's looking for platforms. No, we're looking to make anybody popular. It's really about who's doing the work in the community. It's about the folks who are doing the work in their local congregations. It's about the folk that care about people. And those of us who are at this level, we're not impressed. So I think that's the key. I think there's this sense that you don't realize we're not impressed. We've been through too much. We're going through too much right now. We are in this point that we are now evaluating what's essential, right? In our own congregations, we're having to look at essentialism and discover what things no longer are needed in order for us to continue going forward and what things are, which causes us to streamline what we've been able to do. So we're not looking for the next big voice or the next big. We're looking for the person who has passion, the person who has a skill set to come in and empower our people in a way. We can get anybody to come preach to us. I mean, that needs somebody that has a skill set. So what I would highly advise ministers to do is to find out what your niche is and develop content and develop workshops around that so that you can make yourself essential. Because if your idea of essentialism is just basically being the next hottest preacher out there that's going to be on the circuit, let me just be the first to tell you. Let me be the very first to tell you that circuit stuff will never look the same.
Wow.
It won't.
So we could just drop the mic right there. I mean, because I think somebody of your stature has to be the one to say it, because, a lot of people are, and this segues into our next question, but many people in this season are not pivoting. They're just waiting for things to go back to normal.
So sad. And that's the problem. Things will never go back to normal as they were. There will be a new normal. There is a new dispensation among us. And we must understand what we have often referred to as really anointed and we have celebrated on stages with lights and camera. Now, the truly anointed people are the folks that's plugging in and flipping switches behind the screen that's keeping us relevant and keeping us on right now.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself, am I going to pay you? Am I going to actually invite you and give you $2,500 to $5,000 to preach one night in my church? Or I'm going to hire, the right people to make sure that my technology, innovation and stuff is peaking so that I got the right crew behind me so that I don't go off the air. Not only that, once I get through paying them and taking care of them and getting the right staff around me, now I got to figure out what asset, what do you bring? What value do you bring that you can also come alongside and help my staff or help my church? Because if you just got 3 points and a holler, I'm just trying to tell you right now, you're not considered essential where the church is going.
Whoa.
I'm just going to call it for what it is. Fact is, the fact is, let me help y'all understand something.
Talk to us, Bishop. Talk to us.
You know what happened when Naaman, remember when Naaman, went he was trying to get healed, and he got a decree from the king. Remember this?
Mm-hmm.
Remember what happened? He needed a what? A letter.
Mm-hmm.
Because he couldn't go talk to the king without a letter. Correct?
Absolutely.
He took a letter to the king. You with me?
I'm with you.
Let me exegete that. Let me
break it
that out. Kings talk to kings. We only recognize kings.
Uh-huh.
So all the kings, in your estimation, we all talking.
Mm-hmm.
We all talking. And what I'm saying, we all saying.
So this is what the talk is right now.
I'm trying to tell you, Diamond Gantt, I'm telling you that all the king's men are having the same conversation with me.
Uh-huh.
That this thing has pivoted.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a generation coming behind us that needs to understand. When you come to us talking about, can you plant me in a church? We're going to give you a laptop, not a building.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to help you understand something. We're trying to help you understand that until you learn how to diversify your anointing and how to get out of this one-dimensional understanding of what ministry is, that it's how well I can preach and I can close. But you have got to learn. Let me tell you something. I don't say this to toot my horn. I say it to prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
You know and I know. I pastor Mount Zion. I'm the presiding bishop of Full Gospel.
Right.
Chair the board of Tennessee State University.
Mm-hmm.
It means I am the boss of the president of Tennessee State University. Do you get it?
I get it.
Who happens to be the basileus of Alpha Kappa Alpha International.
Uh-huh.
Who happens to be the basileus of the next vice president.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Wow.
Right. I'm on the board of a bank. I'm on the board of Meharry Medical College. And so I do commencement addresses. I speak to business and entrepreneurs. I do revivals. I do leadership training. I do mentorship. So I have diversified my anointing in order to make myself essential. So as a consequence, watch where I'm going.
I hear you.
If one portal shuts down, I got others. So what I'm saying to this generation, make yourself essential.
Mm-hmm.
Write books. Find your niche. Develop content. Trust the man of God. We are looking for people who are experts in certain areas. You will need a job, and we're the ones who will be hiring you. Mm-hmm. If you have not diversified yourself, you're not going to sit under us asking, when is my turn to preach? All of them, our turn.
Wait.
Amen.
I would say it again, but I think they heard you.
You ain't got no turn. They all got turn. It is a gratuitous endowment when we give you a turn. The fact is, when you diversify yourself and make yourself essential, that's when all these wonderful doors open up. That's when we're like, yo, you can do this now. I want you to preach. I want you to do this. But if you just come looking like, I just want to pull back and just preach on this platform, I can make it. Man, we're so past that. Ain't nobody talking about that.
I'm glad you said that, Bishop, because here's the thing, and I'm going to be honest. I'm so glad you said this because it's, it's kind of like, it's a little platform of mine. It's not Mount Zion or anything like that, but it's a platform. And, I am a nerd by nature. So when this happened, right, and coronavirus came, no more preaching, I had a packed month of whatever, March, April.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm in this place now where I'm getting calls to do things like this. I'm building websites.
Oh.
It's like I'm thriving in this season. And so I say that to say, not to brag or anything like that, but to say that we've laughed so long at the people who wanted to diversify themselves and wanted to go after theological education. But I came across a job opportunity the other day. Someone sent it to me, and it was for a wonderful salary. They wanted you to be proficient in website building, proficient in how to build an online presence, and to have an MD.
MD.
And I said, this is what the world has come to.
Calling for it. We're calling for it.
Wow.
I'll say this one time. I'm gonna say this one time. I'm gonna say it one time. I'm not gonna repeat it.
Loud and clear.
Whoever get it, they'll get it. In this season, please understand. You got to agonize, and then you got to strategize, and then you got to organize. Right? After you organize, then you got to mobilize, and after you mobilize, then you can monetize.
Wow. Somebody should have wrote that down. Somebody needs to put that in the comments. I don't even know if they caught it. I don't even know if they
caught it. I'm not gonna say it no more. I said it.
I heard that last one when you said monetize. My God, mobilize, organize, all of that. Wow, that's powerful. So I want to talk as we kind of segue into this whole point of commitment to the call. And we've already pretty much touched on this, but when I was interning with you, and even to this day when we talk, there's one thing that you taught me, and that is consistency is key. And so we know that consistency looks a little bit different now, but in a way, you still have to be consistent and committed to the call. And so I want to ask you this, as someone, you stated so many of the things that you're doing as it pertains to being a chairman and on the board of a bank and all of that. How does consistency in leadership shift one from being mediocre to being above average? And how have you leveraged being a leader to leaders? And I want to add this in here for those who are watching. When all of this happened, who were the kings that you spoke about coming to? They were coming to you, asking you, about the online presence that you had already built. So to that, just explain that to us.
So let me say this as a selfish plug, but my podcast, Next Level Leaders, next Tuesday, it's free. Dr. Joseph Walker. I'm talking about discipline. Mm-hmm. And I deal with discipline, the art of consistency. Because the issue is that there can be no consistency where there is no discipline.
Yeah.
And no discipline, right? Proverbs talks about this. I think it's Proverbs, Proverbs 10:17. Mm-hmm. 10:17. You should read that. It will bless you. It is a powerful revelation about discipline. And I think that when you look at consistent people, these are the folks who excel in extraordinary ways. People that are inconsistent, the Bible speaks so much about being, wayward like a ship, tossed to and fro, not having any grounding, you're flighty, all these different things. God can't trust that. Mm-hmm. It is when you are consistent, it means you develop certain protocols of discipline and devotion in your personal life. My consistency comes from developing a regimen that will not allow people to encroach upon my set times, I set boundaries, and I have agendas, and I operate from a schedule. And so consequently, I have a to-do list every day. And mm-hmm. therefore, I don't let people put they do on my to-do list. That's too much do. So what I do, right?
Are y'all hearing this?
I develop a discipline around myself. This is the time I have allocated for this. This is the time I allocated for this. You've never known me not to be on time or early. You've always known me to show up early, be in place, let's go. And you've always known me to say, okay, got to roll to the next thing, because that's the consistency. When you develop that consistency, you develop a culture of consistency around you. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know this, Diamond. You know it. People ask me all the time, what was the secret of Mount Zion's growth? I'll tell you what it was. It was Bible study. It was because I really decided, okay, I'll do revival for you, but I'll do it Monday and Tuesday because I got to be home for Wednesday.
Absolutely.
I was home for Bible study. Mm-hmm. And I'm home on Sundays.
Absolutely.
Because I was growing the church by being present.
Wow. And that's funny because we have a generation that really didn't want to be present. Now you have to be present now and you and I have conversed about this several times, but just the idea of that, the road just calling, I just want to be out there and not being committed to home. So I'm glad you shared that. I really am, Bishop, because it's important. But I want you to hit on this point. How you leveraged in this season being a leader to leaders, people who have come to you literally of large denominations asking you to guide us through this COVID-19 and this.
Well, it's been honesty. It's been honesty, Diamond. I think one of the things that I've been humbled by it, I've had leaders, like a lot of reformational leaders, a lot of churches, mega church pastors, a lot of friends of mine have called me, and I've committed to helping navigate them through this space. Tomorrow, I believe, in USA Today, there's an interview I did around this issue of engagement in church and how it impacts the Black church. And so I've been asked to do a lot in these platforms to really speak to how the church navigates through this pandemic. We've developed a strategic planning team, that a document is going to come out of that we'll make available to leaders through our Propel conference in Full Gospel. So there's a lot of things that we are being able to do. And I think it's, I'm humbled by it, but I think if you ask what are the key takeaways, it's that I'm very honest with leaders about their situation. Like, you just can't do that, or you need to do this more, etc. That's important. And then I think what I try to do is I try to help guide them with, innovative strategies that are to their scale, because everybody's not the same scale.
That's a good point.
Listen, what I'm doing may be at this scale, but you can do this. I know you can do this because I know this is low hanging fruit for you, and you still can accomplish it. So I made myself available to any pastor, regardless of the size of church, regardless of who it was denominationally. I just want to see churches win. I just believe, that God's word is true, that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. The New York Times said a third of churches won't survive this season of coronavirus. A lot of pastors are having to shut down or merge and all this kind of stuff. But I believe if you have the right mentor, the right person helping you through this season, I believe you can survive it.
Absolutely. And you hit on a good point about helping people where they are. And you and I converse quite often about being systematic thinkers. You're a systematic thinker. You strategize. You're a strategizer. Can you talk about the importance of revisiting methods as a leader? Because I know it can be tough. Now, this is a no-brainer for you. The pivot, of course, there were some things you had to revisit. But can you talk about the importance of revisiting methods? Because some people just didn't want to let go of the method that they were using.
Yeah, you have to, you have to date the method and marry the mission. You have to be flexible enough to change methodologies and strategies in order to be effective, and I think that you have to look at it from a couple of perspectives. One, you have to reimagine, what your homiletical strategy might be. Like which our presentation of the pulpit, how we preached and what we did. It's one way when your sermon and your preaching, is directed toward people who are in call and response, and there's a certain environment in the house. It's another dynamic preaching to a red dot on a camera. That's a whole nother dynamic. So as a consequence, you have to become more didactic. You have to take people on a journey in terms of a curriculum, and so they can stay engaged. And so that's a methodology. You can't just randomly have messages all over the place. And so what I try to do is take people on a journey so they stay connected throughout, and it's building something in them. I think that's important. So how we homiletically adapt is huge. I think secondly, how we administratively adapt our methodologies, how we do what we do behind the scenes. It's going to change, looking at, what does our praise and worship look like? What does our, outreach looks like? All those different things are going to shift. One of the things we're discovering in this virtual space is that it's putting a demand on how long we stay in church. I mean, now church is just, an hour. Churches that stay in church an hour are doing very well. The science is showing us, if you stay in church on streaming for like an hour and a half or 2 hours, 30 minutes, man, people don't engage long. They're like, I'm out. They on to something else. It's selling time. So you can get as much in as possible in that particular time frame.
Gotcha. I think that's so important. And I want to shout out just for a second. I know
Bishop, let me try, man.
My bishop is on. I want to say, hey, the bishop.
That's my regional bishop.
Absolutely. That's my pastor. I love you, Bishop.
I believe it. He's the greatest.
Even my grandmother's on, Pastor Presley. She's just so happy. So I wanted to shout her out. You know,
Region Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship.
You know, what's funny, Bishop, I'm sitting here talking to you, and it's like one of those mom, I made it moments. So if I just shout out my mom and say, Mama.
Oh, hush.
Oh no, but I am grateful, of course, for your time, and of course want to give honor to my bishop. And so I want to ask you this. You and I, over the summer, you had a conversation with me that literally changed my life. You literally changed my life with this conversation. And I don't know if you know where I'm going with this.
I know exactly where you're going.
But we sat in the truck and we were driving, going to lunch, and you know, you pulled out your phone and you basically pulled out a calculator and you asked me certain questions about, you know, what was I doing with the earnings that I was getting on the road. And I think this is a conversation that is so touchy-feely for us, right? It gets real tense when we talk about money. Now, you and I have had these conversations. Now, I want to ask it in a very precise and strategic way. We pass down so much in ministry. The Black church, African-American church primarily, holds mentorship in such high esteem. I want to ask the question, why isn't how to deal with money one of them?
Well, I think it's because we have not many teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the fact. I mean, the fact is that unfortunately, you know, we pass down bad habits. You know, we were chasing, you know, who got the best gaiters on, who got the best custom suits on, you know, who had, you know, the best, biggest hats and, you know, the Chanel, you know, kind of stuff working on, and people walking around looking great but broke, you know. And so one of the things that I committed to doing with you, and I've done it with all the folks that I'm around and share with and pour into, is to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll share it. You have to think about it. Like, the fact is, you guys are a generation where you actually can break the generational curse of poverty off of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a generation of folks that can coming into money. You have to think about, why do we have so many, you know, folks who've done extraordinarily well, filling up arenas, you know, selling tapes, selling, you know, all this product. And then in 2020, they have nothing to show for it. Still out here struggling. It's because you look at your hands and you think about how much money has passed through your hands you wish you could get back.
Right.
See, how we handle money is that we look at money like, I'm buying attention, or I'm feeding the monster of self-esteem.
Please talk about this. Just go ahead. Yeah.
I'm getting money and I'm buying attention. So I go out and I'm paying for everybody lunch all the time. You know, I'm trying to flaunt and show, or I'm feeding self-esteem. I'm feeding this issue of, I got to have the latest name brand. I got to have the red bottoms. I got to have this and I got to have that, even though I know I can't afford it. Right. Mm-hmm. So as a result, what I'm trying to I help you with, and I'll help all of your listeners understand. I want you guys to understand diversification of assets. I want you to understand appreciating assets versus depreciating assets. Mm-hmm. I want you to understand that, you know, when you become the first one to really make it, don't go buy a Cadillac. Don't think that you've arrived because you got a Cadillac or you got a new Benz. My thing is, someone asked me the other day, someone I mentored, they said, should I buy this? You know, they wanted to buy this G-Wagon or whatever. Uh-huh. Came to somebody. I said, I tell you what. I said, you buy it if you can buy it twice.
Right.
End of discussion. Right? Because see, you have to know how to use liquid. You have to know when to move cash and when to have cash. You have to understand the market. You know, either you have money, your money make money, or you have none. Those are the only three positions you'll ever have in your life. And so is those of us in ministry, we do come into, you know, supplemental income in ways in which other people do not. You have to learn how to invest that money. You have to learn how to take that money and you have to invest that money and save that money for your future, right? I told you, I said, look, you know, here you are in your early 20s. You know, I was giving you figures, made your head spin.
Oh, God.
You know, 20 years from now, like if you do this 20 years from now, you won't be worrying about nothing. And you won't.
Thank you, Holy.
Based on the plan I put in front of you, right? Ain't Ain't no get rich quick. Ain't no, wasn't no, go and put your money over here, overseas. It wasn't nothing like that. It was just simple, fundamental, understanding the market and where to put your money, talking to a financial advisor and saying, if I'm going to have this money, I'm going to pay my taxes. I'm going to pay my tithe, pay my taxes, and I'm going to put this back. And if I'm going to do it this way, I'm going to live off of this. Somebody give me $1,000 check, right? I'm going to pay $100 in taxes. I'm going to pay $100 in my tithe. I'm going to take $200 of it or $300 of it, right? And I'm going to invest it. And I'm going to live off the rest. I'm cool. I'm going to act like out of every $1,000 I got, I got 500. I'm going to act like I got 500. That's how I'm going to live. I'm going to live like that. But what we got is a generation that's spending $1,200 for every $1,000 they get.
My God, talk about it, Bishop.
That's why the credit card, that's why they got MasterCard. That's why they slaves to Master. Right? You're a slave of that. So therefore, watch what happens. Let me tell you the deeper theological implication. Daryl Joy, good to see you. Let me tell you the deeper theological implication of this.
Go ahead, Bishop.
The deeper theological, and it's an integrity issue now, because now when you have that level of debt, your motive for ministry shifts not to I'm assigned because I'm anointed to go. It's because I gotta come. So therefore you start becoming a hireling. And therefore you start manipulating God's people, raising offerings just to pay your credit card bill versus raising offerings because that's what God told you to do.
My God.
You understand? So now you've turned revivals into survivals. You get it? Because you don't know how to manage your money. So this is what happened. The same way you handle your money individually, the moment you enter a church and you become pastor, you transfer those same bad habits, and that's how you run your church budget. Exactly. And that's why churches, that's why employees' checks be bouncing, they can't get paid, and musicians can't get paid because nobody taught you how to personally manage money. So now here you are overseeing budgets, and you don't know what a budget look like. Amen.
Go ahead, Tricky. I'm laughing, but this is literally why I believe what I believe, because you had these conversations with me. I talk to my friends, and my friends are not afraid I don't hang around people that are afraid to talk about money.
Y'all listen, y'all better get you one or two good suits or dresses, save your money, and keep ironing them until they shine on you. Versus up here trying to compete with us. You can't. The distance is too great. Do you understand? But enjoy the distance. If you trying to compete with me, that's like me trying to compete with LeBron. Like the distance is too great. So what you got to do is say, I know where I am. I'm trying to set myself up, thinking about my retirement, my future, and I'm good. I'm not trying to compete because we're sitting up looking like, dude, I can go out and pay cash for that car, and I wouldn't do it. And you just up here and bought and financed it for 8 years at 17%. You done lost your mind.
You helping us, Bishop. I don't think you understand. I don't think
I would like that. Like you don't even realize you out here. Like you don't realize. Like guys like me, I'm so frugal. You know this.
I know, Bishop.
You be watching me. Like I be laughing at the folk. I be like, they be like, Walker be dressing, man. He be having on these red bottoms. Like y'all don't know. I know when to shop. I shop in December and June. I be like, sale. Let's go. I shop twice a year. I shop for sales. I don't buy stuff for sale. I buy on sale.
Absolutely.
You have seen this with your own eyes.
I've seen it. I've heard
none of y'all. Because I know how much stuff really costs.
Let me tell you this. You have exceeded my expectations with this answer, and I'm glad that you're saying it because I'll be quite honest. Certain things I have learned, but because of age, I just don't share because I don't have the seniority to say it. And so that's why I had this platform specifically for those who have come, who can say it and been there and done that. And you all have heard firsthand. One of
the saddest realities is that you watch, and they're precious people. It breaks my heart. You watch, elder statesmen who get to a point in their life where they should be enjoying retirement and they can't, all because either the church did not do right by them, it wasn't their fault, or because they did not save their money appropriately, right? And they don't necessarily retire. My heart and my soul goes out to folks like that. That's why I'm always giving back to the senior leaders, and I'm always pouring into them because I want them to win. And I think it's a shame if your generation comes along and 20 years from now, and all you got to show for are some Gucci belts, some faded Gucci belts, and some red bottoms that turn to pink bottoms. I mean, that you done lost your mind.
So what, Bishop? Can you say that?
Some red bottoms that didn't turn to pink bottoms because they didn't fade it.
I don't have any red bottoms yet, but I say that because I know where I am, God. But now I could buy them, right? But
you could, or you could buy this stock. You could buy stock. Exactly. You can buy one pair now, or buy 10 pair 20 years from now.
Absolutely. You got that right. I hope y'all are hearing this. I really hope you're taking notes. I hope you share this broadcast because this is stuff. This is rich, man. This is rich. Bishop, you have literally answered this question, exceeded my expectations. But I want to ask you this as we begin to conclude. And if anybody has questions for Bishop, this is like prime time. He's incredibly busy. He's incredibly busy and he's cleared his schedule. So I want you to ask those questions because we're going to end right at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and 9 Central. So drop your questions in the comments. But this is literally good stuff. So many people want to know, and so many young preachers, and I'm glad you stated what you talked about. The distance is just too great, and to enjoy the distance, because I have some of my fellows in ministry or in my cohorts of ministry, and we come in and we want to do what you do. We want to do what your contemporaries are doing, and we just want to do it. And so I want you to literally give a inside scoop, as much as you care to share, about how you balance your day-to-day. You literally pastor 30,000 people, over 30,000 people. You talked about all that you do. I've seen it firsthand, how you balance it and how it's a nonstop grind that people want. And you would ask me, do you really want this life? And I would say, what? Want? Right. So, and so I want you to literally just share how you balance that and what the minutia of that lifestyle is like.
Yeah, you want to know what it's like to get up at 5 o'clock every day, talk to God, work out, take care of yourself. By 6 o'clock, you're sitting up, you're strategizing, you're thinking through your schedule, what you got to do that whole day. You're having 7 o'clock, you're having breakfast, and then your kids are getting up and you're balancing your family, you're making sure everybody's straight. By 8 o'clock, 8:30, you're starting your meetings, right? You can go from one meeting on one extreme to the next meeting on the next extreme. You can deal with strategy for the staff. You can go to calling a family who just lost a baby, or you can go calling somebody who has stage 4 cancer, and then you go to another meeting with the bank trying to help deal with some things there. And then, right, and you keep going from meeting to meeting to meeting, and you have to shift, and you have to pivot. Like every 30 minutes, you got to pivot from one thing to the next. You have to, remember how to collate every single thing, right? This is the life. And you drop, you got an hour for lunch. Then you pick this right back up, right? And as you go with this pace of schedule, right, you're constantly realizing that in this life, what I'm doing, that 95% of the times your phone rings, it's an ask. It's not how you doing, checking on you, praying for you. No, 95% of the time it's we need to get an answer from you. Would you, can we, what do you say? Will you approve? So you're constantly realizing the buck stops with you 95% of the time. There's a lot of people depending upon you. So the decisions you make, the things you post about, the things you do, all those things impact more than you. They impact the people that work for you, that serve in your ministry. It's a glass house. And while you're doing all of that, Sunday keeps coming. So it doesn't matter what personal issues you have going on with your family, your extended family. People never really don't care, even though they say they do, because what they want to know is that a word from the Lord. And so consequently, the faster you're moving, the quicker Sundays are coming. It's like light poles on the interstate. You turn around, it's just Sunday again, and people want you to have a fresh revelation. and then Bible study, a fresh revelation. And you got to keep the revelation coming while you keep the administration coming. So now you got the administration coming, then you got the revelation coming, and it's all coming at the same time. And you got to be able to manage all that at the same time. You got to carve out some time for meditation. So now I got administration, I got revelation. Now I got to get some meditation in, right? And now I got to get that meditation in, right? So if I don't get the meditation in, I'm end up medicating myself. So I can't medicate myself. So I got to keep meditating, right? And so the meditation is what keeps me going, and finding time to read the Bible for myself and not read the Bible just to prepare a sermon, but just separating it. Jesus pulled away and he did this by himself, apart from the multitude. He spent time in silo by himself. So it is a constant grind. And then guess what? When you get to doing all that and you lay your head down, it's morning all over again. And you don't know when one day ends and the next day begins. And you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. At the end of the day, it's called ministry. And therefore, 2 Corinthians chapter 4 says it very clearly. Therefore, seeing we have this ministry, we receive mercy and we faint not. You want this life?
Want? Want? Every time you ask me, that's going to be my response. And seeing you do it and seeing the great responsibility has been most humbling. It's been most humbling. And I mean,
from some, I'm always coming from some on my way to some.
Always.
Yeah. People try to assess your life and your ministry. You know, they try to assess it like, oh, you must be chilling now. All you got is one service. You must be, oh my God, you must be just, they don't realize. No. I wish you could come sit in this seat with me one day. I wish you come sit right in this office and see how many different things I go through in one single day. You probably be like, oh God, no, I didn't realize it was all that. Oh yeah.
But we see the outside. We see the stages. We see the suits, the car, the this, the that. But we will never know. And that's why I wanted to have this platform, for you to come and tell us what it's really all about. Because everybody has ideas, right? Everybody has an idea, but do they really know? And I thank you, Bishop, for explaining that to us the way that you did. So someone wants to ask, and we're going to be respectful of your time, because again, I'm so grateful. They asked, what would you say to young preachers about preparation and writing who don't have many opportunities? Too many of us are guilty of writing per engagement.
Man, let me tell you something. You need to be writing sermons weekly. You need to be writing at least 2 sermons a month. You got to be putting out in your catalog. You need to develop a repertoire. You need to have a catalog of messages. I would say stay in the habit of writing sermons. Stay in the habit of writing sermons. Now, those who understand, I'll be doing a workshop on this soon. My style is very much different. Diamond, I write my sermons in advance, 3 months in advance. I've got a system in how I've been doing that for years. But you gotta don't write per engagement, because you never know. When you live in my life, you never know what may come up, man. Your Saturday, you interrupted by something, a tragedy or something, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I've been dealing with this all day. Now I got an hour to get this sermon out for tomorrow. How does that work? Doesn't work.
There we have it. 2 sermons a month. Someone said, Bishop, how have you best managed seasons of transition?
Very prayerfully and with great intentionality. I've always tried to have my ear to the mouth of God, and understanding how to exegete culture in the midst of transition. I think it's important. I wrote a book called Leaderships. There it is. Mastering Transitions in Life.
Where can you get that, Bishop? Let us know where they can purchase it.
You can get it at josephwalker3.org. Managing Transitions in Leadership in Life. You should get it. It'll bless you. That I wrote all about transitions right there.
Got you. Check that out, Andrew. That's my brother. Okay, Bishop, how do you build and protect your marriage in all that you manage?
Well, let me invite you to join my wife and I this Thursday. We're doing a thing called Couples Camp. We'll be talking about that, and it's open to anybody who wants to be a part of it. Just go to Mount Zion's website and register for free, or look on my Instagram page. You'll see the little banner. You can go to my bio and you can actually register there. We're talking about that. How do we manage and protect marriage? It is so important. And it's all about, for us, it's about intentionality. It's about boundaries. It is about making certain, like Dr. Steph and I'll be up in the morning at 6 o'clock taking a walk. You know, it takes us an hour to walk through our neighborhood. We're going to do it, and we talk, we share. So those are the kind of things you have to do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bishop, for answering that. And so in these last few moments, Bishop, I want to first express to all of those who are before all of those who are watching, how grateful I am that you've taken this time. You and I do talk often, and you share things with me and I share with you. And you've been so gracious to take out and carve out time for us. If you would just leave us with just some concluding remarks, if there is something, a statement that you wanted to leave with this generation of preachers, young pastors, can you just leave us with something? And then we're going to conclude from this time. But I thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, let me just say, you know, I'm incredibly honored and thankful to be a part of this platform with you, Diamond. I'm so proud of you, as you know. And I want to say to this generation of leaders, emerging leaders, that we need you. Many of us out here are looking for the brightest minds to bring alongside us, folks who are serious, folks who have a passion, folks who are not trying to get a platform. And I say to you, study, read as much as you can, and get a mentor, man. Don't assume that those of us out here who are busy, that we don't have time to mentor. Diamond will tell you that. If you'd like me to mentor you, be a part of what's called Shepherd's Heart, reach out, josephwalker3.org, find Shepherd's Heart. I love to do that. I just believe that God has deposited in you needs to be shaped and fashioned, not for what the church was, to where the church is going. And some of us, God is anointed with the grace to help you with this new space. And I just want you to know I make myself available for that. So hit me up on IG or whatever, and just know that we're pulling for you and praying for you. I believe our future looks bright. And I believe if you connect the Diamond Gantt, I know you're serious.
I appreciate that, Bishop. Thank you so much for coming on this platform. And of course, I love Dr. Steph. And we didn't even get to talk about Dr. Steph and how incredibly bright she is, and how I honor her just as much as I honor you. And so thank you again, Bishop. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and follow Bishop. Visit Joseph Walker 3, and you can
follow me.
Oh yeah, follow him. He's very active on social media. He's more active than any of us. So make sure you connect with him and get those books and those resources. They will surely bless your life. Everybody have a great night, and I'll see you back again next Tuesday.